To just share with you very quickly a project that we had started a few years back. I'm sorry that I wish I could show the finished project, but we're almost finished, but not quite yet. I think Ray there has seen this project, and we're struggling to raise enough money to do it. But this was something that all the enthusiastic new councillors at MBPJ, and we were so glad to work with them. These are truly community organizers. Those people that become presidents of the US, they start at community organizers. So I got to meet some of them. Latifa Koya, Wong Hoi Cheo. They are amazing people. They left whatever they've been doing, and they're all stars in their own business, and they came into the council because they believed that they had a role to play back in this 2009-2010. And they came to us, because MPPJ had about 22 or 23 of these so-called housing complex or estates, and they were obviously all run down and dilapidated, and they had a budget like they do every year. They have a small budget to do something on. But most of the time, if I may say so, I hope there's nobody from local council here, they squander it on a paint job, they squander it on some potted plants. That's to me what is happening to the dribble bits of funds that actually are made available to them. So when they came to us to ask us to come up with what we can do, they said that the MPPJ already has a budget for paint, and we thought, we can use that budget and reuse it somewhere. We didn't realize later on only, we realized they actually bought the paints already. So then we had to then find our own funds for what we wanted to do. We thought at first, we'll convert that and make a statement of we need more than paint here. It's not just a paint job. There are fundamental infrastructural issues that are more critical to address than just a fresh coat of color. Okay, so this is Maju Jaya. If for those of you not familiar, it's not very far from here even. It's in the site. It's just near Kampung Medan, where there are a lot of squatter housing and sort of low-income housing from various periods. Very mixed neighborhood, and it was a site. It's a very troubled neighborhood, I think, and that's why it erupted in those riots, among young people. Riots in 2011, where about 12 people actually died, and dozens others were injured in just fighting, neighborhood fighting. And so we selected this because we thought perhaps it's also a symbolic sort of healing. Out of the 22 blocks that we were looking at to use as a pilot project, this is Maju Jaya. It's also more manageable because we didn't have enough funds to do the 20-story blocks. It's a 5-story block. There are 12 units per floor, so there are 60 families living in here. So we, our guys, my architects, we all went down to ground. This is where it is. That's that block of flats right there. It's just a simple 2 rows with a very narrow courtyard, and it's got some bits of ground which are you're not really clear whether theirs or not. All of these sort of no man's land that people start to inhabit. And then this, what looks like a park, is actually used to be a big garbage dump. And so they were living next to a garbage dump for a long time. And then after that, the garbage dump was relocated, and it was still very, polluted grounds. Not quite grounds you want to be running around, for children to be running around. So that's the flats. That's how it looks like. So we just looked at basic things, when you just get down to ground and see what are the issues. Well, this block of flats is actually not that old. It was actually built in the 80s, It's not like Petaling built in 69. It was built in the mid-80s and finished late 80s. And it's already so run down. The developer, to save costs, didn't have the hoods, so rain was always seeping into everybody's homes. Those who could afford it, they've put up their little metal canopy. Many still can't even afford to do just that. Yeah, so that was one problem. And then, as mentioned, the area around the compound was not well defined, so everybody started to grab space. People will do their illegal car park sheds all over, and these are some of the issues. Then, of course, the dumping ground, that was used to be the big garbage dump for the whole area, large area. But even after it was not properly cleaned up, just left as open area, and people were trampling through. There were no clear pedestrian paths, no well-lit pedestrian paths, things like that. And one of the problems we felt most fundamental to fix was that there was no clear entrance to the building. It was just 2 blocks of flats, and you slip in between. You see, we can't even take a photo of this. People are parked right in front of there, and you just have to slip in between what is the fire staircase, you know. So you have to, I think we have pictures of that. And then, of course, in the courtyard, it's all totally overtaken by motorcycles. Everybody is so scared that motorcycles will be stolen. They want to park it right in front within sight of their kitchen so that, you know, the motorcycle is safe. And when they do that, kids can't play anymore, people can't sit out there. So that was what was really, we felt was a fundamental problem. Of course, in the if you can go back, just, of course, also the conditions there, the septic tanks were in the courtyard, and they often would get blocked, and then the courtyard would become very unpleasant. So these were day-to-day mundane issues that made it difficult for them to enjoy that small bit of community space. The units are not very big. The units here are a bit bigger than Petaling. They're about 450, I forget now. But when you live in such a small unit, the courtyard is very important. It becomes their extended living room. You know, kids don't have space to play inside the unit, so they run out to the corridors and they run out to the courtyard, because that is really the extended living room for them. So we felt the most important thing to do is we need to reclaim all these lost community spaces and create, and so that they become, again, what they were early intended to be, play areas for kids and, you know, old people to sit, etc. Okay, so we crystallized the issues really is about ownership, it's about identity, it's about security. Because security created some of these issues, you know, the motorcycle overtaking the courtyards. Identity, there's a lack of identity. There was no sort of, you know, sort of community bonding, because everyone slipped in. They don't know who was coming in where. They came in either this side of the staircase, that side. So there was, the people just didn't know who was coming and who was going, and that also compounded the security problem. And then it made them have no sense of ownership. They're not proud of the place, and which we felt, you know, a bit sad, because many of them have lived there since the beginning. So the first thing we thought was wrong was that because, you know, the authorities allowed them to build flats all the way to the ground. Previously, that wasn't allowed, and I think we should actually start to not allow that the entire ground floor is taken up by units as well, that there should be sufficient ground floor space to do all the things that traditionally would be done. You know, for instance, when you have a kanduri, when you have a funeral, when you have a wedding, that's where the ground floor space would be used for. But when you allow the units to go all the way to the ground, take up the whole ground floor space, then there's less opportunity to have common spaces at the ground floor. The old flats from the 60s usually have the ground floor free, actually, but in the 80s now, we haven't done better, we've done worse. We've put flats, we're so greedy for putting more units in that we've compromised, you know, traditional community spaces there. So we said, okay, how do we get, you know, more space? So we said, okay, so that started to be our project. We told Hoi Cheng and Latifah, we'll buy one unit. Veritas will buy one unit so that we can create a new entrance. That was technically a good idea, but then we underestimated one more thing. Hey, these people really love their homes. Nobody wanted to sell. So we couldn't go ahead with this thing. So we had to look for a way to create a new front door for them, because we really wanted to create a new front door. You know, the front door, you may think it's not important, but it's very precious for every home. That's when you go in, you know, that's where you take pictures, that's where people identify that's your home. So same, we felt the front door was very important for the whole community there to identify themselves as a community. You know, we are Maju Jaya Block C, and that's our front door. So anyway, the alternative location was coming in through the side, which was blocked by the fire stairs. So our job then became to relocate this fire stairs. See, this is the entrance lah. You see, they have no front door. People park their motorcycles. There's all the electric meters are there. The mailboxes are there, and it's just slipping in around this, and then they climb up the stairs. You know, I think every person deserves a dignified way to arrive at their home. And we felt that this was what we would like to create. So this is our proposal. It's just to create a covered drop-off. You know, we take for granted we all have homes that are covered drop-off, but you know, these folks would never be able to be dropped off at home dry. You know, if it's raining, they're going to get wet. So these are the small little things we felt were important to provide for everyone, no matter whether you're in a low-cost housing. So that's why a covered drop-off and front door for them, that was our proposal. And now it's going to happen at the side. Okay. So that's there, and to do that, we will have to reconstruct the stairs. And look at the old. We got some engineers to help us sort out that the whole block on the top is not going to collapse, and we will build a new steel staircase outside in the courtyard. So there's enough space to create like a lobby and front entrance. At the same time, then we will allow us to secure this other side so that security, they'll feel safe and people are not filtering into the compound from anywhere. So that was addressing both identity as well as security. Okay, and of course to get rid of those motorcycles and just tidy up the courtyard and make it nice so that people have a place to be. So it really, to us, it's not very difficult to rehabilitate these. And if there is a commitment to do that, it can be fixed. There's no need for us to tear down each time. And each time we tear down, we will never put public housing back. We've never done it before, and I don't know when we're going to start. We usually will put up more expensive housing there. And therefore, we are cumulatively and very deliberately working towards moving affordable housing further and further away from the city center. It's going to become so difficult for people, Malaysians, to live in the city center if you are not rich, basically. Okay, so this is a section showing what we do basically. We demolish the stairs here and build a new stairs here. And then on top of that, because we felt this space wasn't that big, we wanted to, and that's what we're proposing, to build these metal decks. So this is just so that the kids on the third floor will also have, don't have to run all the way down to play. They also have their own decks on the upper floors. So that's just a view to show how the relocated staircase, which we've made open instead of a closed staircase, so that you can see the courtyard and when you arrive at the front door. So it's really as simple as that, reclaiming the courtyard, creating space for children to play, both at the ground level and further up. We use just some simple lightweight steel decks to do that. Okay, right. And of course, there was the paints that were bought, so so it came time to paint, okay, so we said, all right, if the paint's already bought, at least perhaps let them choose the colors so that they have a sense of, ownership of their own unit. And say, I want this color, blah, blah. I also didn't realize the paint was already bought, so in the end, only a few colors, because they had some dreadful leftover colors. Probably the paint supplier just tried to flog it off on them, so they only have a few limited colors to choose from in the end, unfortunately. But that was sort of a symbolic sort of working with the community to make them realize that all these little things is asserting ownership in that community of flats. Okay, so but it was big hoo-ha, even the so this was so that was the big start of the project when they had the repainting, the official repainting by the politicians, and everybody was interested to see it, and it was quite fun to see all the kids so curious about what was going to become of their flats. And we started to do some of the works. One of the things we did complete so far is the fixing the leaks. So what we did was we designed this little lightweight aluminum thing that you can just fix, instead of the old concrete hood. This one, we designed this so that you can just fix it on. So that has been fixed, and that helps the leaking, even though, of course, other people complain that, they like the canopy better because it's not so warm. The canopy created more shade. But we had a limited budget. We can't really make a big hood. So we fixed some problems, not all. So it's an unfinished project. We actually we tried to get some contractors, but surprisingly, contractors are not exactly so generous to do. And the cost to do what we wanted to do far exceeded, because our commitment was the cost of one flat, which is about 50,000. And the works currently is priced at almost 3.5 times that. So we're still looking for enough donors and sponsors to be able to complete the work. But we will do it one day. I just hope that next time I'll be able to show you the actual finished one.